think we have something that everybody's going to really enjoy and get a kick out of. I'm going to go ahead and get this started by introducing a friend of mine, KCarl Smith. KCarl is a rising star in the conservative movement. He's rapidly becoming one of the most requested speakers for Tea Party events, GOP activities, conservative conferences, collegiate gatherings, and faith-based functions across the country. KCarl is a father and a grandfather. He's also an unyielding defender of the Constitution and liberty. Inspired by the guiding principles of the Founding Fathers and holding fast to the oath taken during his service to our country, he launched the Conservative Messenger in 2009. In 2011, the Conservative Messenger evolved into what is now the Frederick Republican movement. He's also the author of the best-selling book, Frederick Douglass Republicans, The Movement to Reignite America's Passion for Liberty. KCarl holds to his credit successful completion of both the airborne and air assault programs while on active duty in the U.S. Army. He's the former district leader of Americans for Fair Taxation. In 2009, he was appointed to the Amistad Commission by former...
Honored that I have the opportunity to share the stage with so many black conservatives who have accepted the call to come out of the closet and to share the values that we believe in, these conservative values. And I believe that it's all about the quality of people that attend. It's not about the numbers. So we have some quality people here, because by hearing the message that we've heard the last couple of days, we can take it now, and things that you learn, you can share it with others. And think about it, Jesus only had 12, so we're in good shape. We're in perfect shape. Eric said something very important, very significant in his talk. He said, and I quote, "We must find a way, we got to convert our language into a language that people understand." What I want to do for the next 20 minutes I have with you, I want to share with you a way how we can not only broaden the base of the conservative movement. In other words, how can we inspire more blacks, more Latinos, more women, more young people to join the ranks of the conservative movement? How can we help the Republican Party today recapture its political distinction and get it back to where it was at the time of Frederick Douglass? I'm going to share it with you. A lot of speakers tell you what we ought to be doing. We need to do this. Before you leave here, I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to share with you how to do it. And I'm going to share this message that God has given me. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Like many of you, I know I was born black. I thought I was born a Democrat. So I realized by studying the scriptures, you know, I'm not even born a Christian. I am going to be born a Democrat. I grew up in a Democrat household. I grew up in a Christian Democrat household. But two things changed my life. First thing was 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. 2 Corinthians 13 and 5 in the Message translation says, "Examine yourself to make sure you are solid in the faith. Don't go along taking things for granted. You need first-hand evidence, not mere hearsay, that Jesus Christ is in you." So about 16 years ago, I started examining myself the way I was voting. I failed the test. I was voting for candidates or a political party that wants to take God's divine definition of marriage and change it. I don't believe it, but I was voting that way. God appeared to me in a vision and told me I was a political schizophrenic. See, a political schizophrenic is a person who worships one way and votes in another. You're crazy. You're crazy. And so I had to realize that, you know what? I'm not going to be a political chump. I'm going to be a Christian champion. That I'm going to vote my values. I'm going to vote my values. So, thank you so much. Now, let me give this statement down. I appreciate your applause. Hold your applause. If I say something you like, don't applaud. Because I got to get through this thing and catch a plane. So I want you to take my 10 to 15 minutes away, 10 to 15 seconds away. I need those at times. So, but if you can say amen and hallelujah, yeah, we have some church in here. So, but the other thing that help me understand some things. Someone at one time sent me a quote from Frederick Douglass when he said on one occasion, Douglass said, "I am a Republican, a black die-in-the-wool Republican, and I never intend to belong to any other party than the Party of Freedom and Progress." Now you gotta understand, I grew up in a Democrat household. When I read that quote, I said, wait a minute, Douglass was a Tom? And why did Douglass say Freedom and Progress Republican Party, and he did not say Freedom and Progress Democrat Party? So that started me on my quest to read, and I read the 3 autobiographies of Frederick Douglass. I read the collection of his writings by Philip Fawner, John Massingame, each book about 900 pages of Douglass's writings in size 6 font. That brother did a lot of writing. I read the Yale University collection of the Douglass papers. For about 5-6 years, I was immersed in Douglass. I want to understand this man. All the issues, the social, the economic, and the political issues we face right now, Douglass is the answer. I'm going to prove it to you before I sit down. Frederick Douglass is the answer. I am a black conservative, but that is not how I define myself politically. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. See, the word conservative has a negative connotation. We're losing the propaganda battle. The word conservative, throughout the country, because the media is in cahoots with the party, the Democrat Party, the word conservative means racist. So if you call yourself a black conservative, a Christian conservative, a Reagan conservative, you might as well call yourself a black racist, a Christian racist. Because we're being discredited through the media. The word conservative is a politically explosive word. So when we're out there trying to engage and you say I'm a black conservative, you've already been discredited. So your message therefore falls on deaf ears. If you call yourself a constitutional conservative, you might as well call yourself a racist. The question is this: how can we take the life-empowering message of the conservative philosophy and share it with all Americans where it resonates? The answer is Frederick Douglass. I contend this: if we're going to have a diversity inclusion program and Frederick Douglass is not your primary focus, you don't have one. Because what the left will do, they will play the race card. Douglass trumps the race card. They're gonna play the class warfare tax. Douglass defeats that. Let me quickly give you about a 1-minute class on Frederick Douglass. You know he was born in Maryland in 1818. Frederick Douglass was born below poverty. Well, he was born below poverty, meaning that he was born into slavery. When you're born into slavery, you don't even own your own body. So he was born below poverty. For the first 20 years of his life, he was in slavery. Fast forward a little bit, he escaped from slavery in 1838, got involved in the abolitionist movement. Frederick Douglass was an advisor to 5 U.S. Republican presidents. 5 U.S. Republican presidents: Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, Rutherford Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, and Ulysses S. Grant. Man never been to school in his life. He wrote 3 books, 3 autobiographies. He didn't have a ghostwriter. Matter of fact, he learned to read and write while he was in slavery. Frederick Douglass was a free market entrepreneur. Frederick Douglass was a capitalist. We're talking about how to encourage people in our community to embrace entrepreneurship. The answer is Frederick Douglass. He was a capitalist. He was a public speaker. This man passed away in 1895 at the age of 77 as a result of a heart attack. When he passed away, Frederick Douglass had $300,000 in savings. Well, thinking about it now, he's on a plantation. Slave master was taking care of him. Slave master was giving food, shelter, and clothing. I guess Governor Rumley would say that Douglass was a 47%. But Douglass became a 1%. Because $300,000 back then is more than $10 million today. That's not bad for a runaway slave. Douglas is the answer. Douglas is the bridge over the abyss of racism, class warfare attacks that's being created by the Democrat Party. So when I say I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, and to become a Frederick Douglass Republican is not based on color, it's based on those 4 life empowering values of Douglass. Respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life, the belief in limited government, I like to keep more of the money that I make, and the belief in personal responsibility. Those are the 4 life empowering values of Frederick Douglass. And you're probably looking at me and saying, wait a minute, those are conservative values. That's right. Frederick Douglass was the quintessential constitutional conservative and a self-proclaimed Republican. See, Dr. King voted Republican, but Dr. King was not a self-proclaimed Republican. This is why Douglass is so key. He trumps the race card. You cannot, see, when I say I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, that means that I believe in the things that Douglass believed in, those 4 life empowering values. So you can't call a Frederick Douglass Republican a racist. He was a victim of racism. You cannot call a Frederick Douglass Republican a sellout. Douglass escaped from slavery and helped others to escape from slavery. Douglass is the key. So I'm not saying that you totally stop using the word conservative. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this. When you're out here engaging, you got to make sure that your definition of conservatism is the same as those who you're talking to. If not, they will see you as a George Wallace Bull Connor conservative and not a Frederick Douglass conservative. We got to understand how this messaging works. I have seen some of the most entrenched, I don't call them liberals anymore. I mean, when you can use the instrumentalities of government to go after people who have not broken the law through the IRS, that's a KGB tactic. So I call them the communist left from now on. We can do that and understand that Douglass is this key. Entrepreneurship. My personal belief is that the political insight of Frederick Douglass is more important than the political insight of the Founding Fathers. Why do I say that? Some of the Founding Fathers owned slaves. Douglass was a slave, but in his writings he affirms the Founding Fathers and he affirms the Constitution. Here's the beautiful thing about Frederick Douglass, why it's so powerful. You cannot out-victimize Douglass. Nobody today can out-victimize him. So that's what this whole Frederick Douglass Republican movement is all about that God has given me. It is a mantra, that's what I call myself. It is a movement. We have about 20,000 people right now across the country who identify themselves as a Frederick Douglass Republican and have been trained in the methodology. About almost 60% of people in the movement are white. About 60%. Because it's not about color, it's about values. I have seen some of the most entrenched liberal, some of the leftists, I've seen some of them change. I've seen my parents change. See, during Thanksgiving time, as when I was a black conservative, they made me sit at the tiny table. Y'all know what I'm talking about, amen, sometimes. With my little nephews and nieces. But now, with this Frederick Douglass Republican thing, my parents have changed and become more critical in their thinking. And one of the first persons I tested this out on was my younger brother, a pastor of 30 years. I sat down with him about 4 years ago. I said, you need to read this on Douglass, read this on Douglass. And after about 6 or 7 months of training, got in the car, we drove to Atlanta, to a neighborhood he'd never been in, I'd never been in. Drove in front of a black barber shop. I said, get out. He said, what? I said, get out, go get your haircut. I said, you need to have confidence that this thing gonna work. But when he got out, he had on one of the shirts that we produced. It's a t-shirt that has 3 big bold letters on it. It says FDR. It's not who you think, Frederick Douglass Republican. So he goes into the barbershop in the hood. As soon as he walked in unison, 2 black gentlemen said, are you a Republican? He said, no, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. There's a difference between the two. The Republican Party today is not does not resemble the party of Frederick Douglass. We got to get it back. Making a long story short, he is standing in the center of the barbershop for about 30, 45 minutes, engaging, teaching about Douglass, driving the narrative, framing the debate. We had to go back 3 weeks later. We did a book signing out in that barbershop. Frederick Douglass, the key. So I wrote a book. The book's entitled Frederick Douglass Republicans, the Movement to Reignite America's Passion for Liberty. That book is an action handbook for conservatives. It's not a dissertation on the political views of Douglass, but it's an action handbook. What did Douglass say about school choice? Douglass wrote about school choice. What did Douglass say about immigration? This man had two newspaper companies. He wrote over 3,000 editorials and essays. What did Douglass say about the Constitution and 3/5 clause? Giving clarity to the 3/5 clause, because as a graduate of Alabama University, I was taught that blacks were excluded from the Constitution because the 3/5 clause said that blacks were 3/5 of human being. Douglass gives clarity to that back in 1861. Douglass said that's not the case. So the book is an action handbook. So the book is selling and people are being empowered with information. What I found out was people are buying the book, but they still were not engaging. We need people to engage. We got to get in people's ear and share our conservative values. So God set me down. I wrote a companion guide to the book. Here's what God did. When you study the ministry of Jesus Christ, do you remember how the scribes and the Pharisees would sometimes try to trap the Christ to get him to say something damaging so they can discredit him? That's what the left do to us conservatives. They try to trap us, hoping that we say something damaging so they can call us a sellout, so they can call us a racist, so they can discredit us. The Pharisees and scribes, however, did not realize that Jesus was a subject matter expert. And he had the gift of taking the challenges, and he turned it around. He made it a teachable moment, and many of them joined the ranks of his movement. That's what we must do. We got to learn how to take the challenges of the left, turn it around, make it a teachable moment, and inspire them to join the ranks of the movement. So in this companion guide, I identified the 12 most asked challenges we face as conservatives. How to take that challenge, you turn around, you make a teachable moment. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're on a local level, you want to engage your family members, your friends, your fellow citizens, and they ask you, are you a Republican? What would you say? If you say yes, you just lost. The word Republican, or the name Republican, the word conservative, the name Tea Party, and the word Constitution, those words have a negative connotation. We're losing the propaganda battle. They mean racist. When you study the ministry of Jesus Christ, when he was challenged by the scribes and Pharisees, he never responded by saying yes or no. He said, it is written, I tell you the truth, meaning that the Christ knew his history. And he also sometimes would respond to the question with the question. KCarl, are you a Republican? I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. There's a difference between the two. The Republican Party today does not resemble the party of Frederick Douglass. We got to help the Republican Party recapture its political distinction and get it back to what it was at the time of Douglass. That's the hook. That's the hook. Let me give you another example. You're out here engaged, and somebody asks you if you're conservative, and you say yes, you just lost. KCarl, are you a conservative? I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. And if you want to be nonpartisan, you can also say Frederick Douglass Liberty Messenger. But I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. I believe in the 4 life empowering values of Douglass. And sometimes you got to ask a question to the question. Say, do you share those values? Most folks, especially black folks, will say yes. You say, guess what? That makes you a conservative, but you can't leave them there. Better still, that makes you a Frederick Douglass Republican, and that's the hook. This thing is absolutely bulletproof. I did not come up with this. I didn't go to Waffle House and figure this thing out. God actually appeared to me in a vision. I write about in the book. Because the person you see today, I wasn't like this several years ago. God has shown me. A story I'm going to tell you, I went to a black church to deliver this message. I gave a copy of the book to this pastor about 2 weeks in advance. He read the book. He said, I want you to come and talk to my congregation. They set up a special meeting on a Thursday night, from 300 people there. They had set it all up. Here comes the black conservative. Black conservative, marketed that way. Before I got a chance to speak, a middle-aged black lady walked up to me and said, you and I, sir, will never agree. She said, because I'm an Obama lover. I said, ma'am, you're exactly right, because I'm a Jesus Christ lover. She said, wait a minute, wait a minute. I'm a Jesus Christ lover too. I said, wait a minute, that's not what you said. Jesus did not come out of your mouth, therefore he wasn't on your mind. You go to Bible study, you go to church, you got your Bible study home program, I'm sure. You're going to critique now God's word. Now, he couldn't sin, but you're going to critique his word. Obama's like all of us. He has a sinful nature. You don't question his policies. So what we have to do, one of the things we're working on, we're helping to elevate people from being superficial observers to become independent critical thinkers. And Douglas is the key to that. The slave masters used the Bible to justify slavery. Douglas came back and used the Bible to end slavery. And what I learned is engaging in order to get people to change. Well, let me back this up. I'm not a recruiter for the Republican Party. Matter of fact, I don't use the word recruit. We have to inspire. We need people in both political parties that have a Frederick Douglass perspective. In both political parties. There's a quote from Robert Brown Elliott during the Reconstruction period. Robert Brown Elliott was a black Republican out of South Carolina during Reconstruction. He said this on one occasion. He said, I am a slave to principles. He meant Christian principles. He said, I'm a slave to Christian principles. I call no political party master. That's what this is all about. It's about voting your values. And it's about understanding as conservatives now, we must find a way how we can be on the offense and share the life-empowering message of the conservative philosophy and share it in a way where it resonates. Here's why Doug is so comprehensive. When you look at the 4 voting blocks that Romney did poorly in, blacks, Latinos, women, and young people. Frederick Douglass resonates with all 4 of them and then some. How does it resonate with blacks? Frederick Douglass is the grandfather of the Civil Rights Movement. Dr. King is a father of the Civil Rights Movement. Dr. King got many of his ideas and strategies from the writings of Frederick Douglass. How does he resonate? How does it resonate with Latinos? Douglass, his work ethic, his entrepreneurship mentality. Douglass supported Chinese immigration back in 1868. He supported legal immigration. He wrote about it. Douglass said, let them come. This is the best country in the history of the world. Let them come so they can improve their quality of life. In that speech called Our Composite Nationality, Douglass said, wait a minute, but there's a process, Douglass said, in the speech. He said, number 1, they must bow, quote, bow to the same law. Bow is a form of respect to the law. Then Douglass said, 2, they must speak the same language. I am not paraphrasing, that's a quote from Douglass. Douglass believed in assimilation. Then Douglass said, they must understand the duties of citizenship in this country. The first duty of citizenship is to obey the law and study and value the significance of our Constitution. This is Douglass's key. How Douglass resonated with women? 1848 was the first time they ever had a women's rights convention in the United States. 1848. 200 women were there. 32 men were there. Sojourner Truth was there. Only 1 man was invited to speak. Frederick Douglass. How does he resonate with young people? Frederick Douglass was a slave for the first 20 years of his life. In his youth, on a plantation, Douglass developed an action plan that prepared him for freedom. He learned how to read and write on the plantation. Douglass learned how to read and write while in captivity. While he was on the system, he learned how to read and write. He maximized educational opportunities while on the system. Now to that, he started a tutorial program on the plantation teaching others how to read and write. And that's pretty important because at that time in history, 90% of blacks at that time could not read or write. So when they escaped from slavery, not being able to read or write, many blacks went back into slavery, and they didn't go back, many of them committed suicide instead of going back. Douglass is the answer. Become a student of Douglass. Now, Star mentioned her book is $20. Well, you got the book and the companion guide. My book is free, but the autograph costs you $20. I'm a capitalist. I'm a free market entrepreneur. So I just want to share that with you. I wish I had more time. What we're doing with the Frederick Douglass Republican movement, I'm actually traveling to 50 states, and what we're doing, we're starting liberty brush fires in all 50 states. And what we're doing, we are intentionally going in preaching to the choir. We're going in, we're talking and preaching to conservative groups like this. Because it's the choir has to be trained. The choir has to be empowered. The choir has to be equipped how to go out and get new choir members. The choir has to do that. The choir needs to be taught a new song to sing because the song we sing is not working. And that song is the Frederick Douglass Republican melody. Douglass is the answer. All the issues facing this country and all the issues facing the black community, Douglass wrote about it. He lived it. Douglass began life at the lowest point and rose to the highest point. Never been to school in his life. Escaped from slave master-run health care. Escaped from slave master entitlements. He used the entitlement program to jumpstart his life, not to become a permanent part of his life. He escaped from it. So what I learned when I go into the urban community and I share this whole idea of entrepreneurship, self-reliance, when you share the Douglass story, it resonates with people because, again, you cannot out-victimize Frederick Douglass. And I said it once, I'm going to say it again. If you're going to have a diversity inclusion program and Frederick Douglass is not your primary focus, you do not have one because you'll be victim of the race card, which Douglass trumps. You'll be victim of class warfare attacks. Douglass defeats that. Those are the two main weapons of the left. And I share this thought with you. We're in a fight. And one of the challenges we face as conservatives is that the opposition, I'm talking about the Democrat Party, they don't play fair. Matter of fact, they use demonic tactics. Tonight, when you go home, go to the Democrat Party's website. Go to the DNC's website. Go the top menu, there's something that says About. You click that, there's a drop-down menu, and it says Our History. Now, I know you know your history versus the Democrat Party, Republican Party. You know that, and Marvin Rogers did a great job in the movie explaining that history. For the entire 19th century, and some into the 20th century, for the entire 19th century, over 100 years, the Democrat Party anti-black, anti-civil rights. The entire 19th century. 1800, 1899, anti-black, anti-civil rights. They started the KKK. They voted against the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. They gave us the Dred Scott decision. Said blacks are not protected by the Constitution. When you go to their website tonight, I just checked it last night, it's still up. The About, drop-down menu, Our History. The first sentence says this: for more than 200 years, we led the fight for civil rights. You see what we're dealing with? Let me say that again so you don't think I said something different. If you go to their website, the DNC's website, About Our History, the first thing you're going to see, it says, for more than 200 years, we have led the fight for civil rights. That's a bold-faced lie. 200 years, this is 2013, 200 years. That's 1813. The slave masters were Democrats. 1813, slavery was around then. That's why Douglass is key, because thank God we have a literary legacy of the writing of Frederick Douglass to refute the lies and propaganda of the left. 1854, Douglass wrote an essay called The Slavery Party. He said, quote, he said, the best representation of slavery in politics is the Democrat Party, and nothing has changed today. Douglass said this. So if anybody's going to take their history and lie about it, you got to understand, that's why we're losing the propaganda battle, because the Democrat Party has co-opted the history of the Republican Party. I thought George Wallace was a Republican growing up. Bull Connor was a Republican. I thought the KKK was started by the Republican Party. I thought the people who bombed 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama were done by Republicans. They answered all those questions. They're all Democrats. So I made a decision. Like, it doesn't matter what party or person, what matters most of all, you vote in your values. Let me say that. We need people in both parties where they further Doug's perspective. But for KCarl Smith, I made a decision that I'm not going to align myself with any political party that put my great-great-grandfather into slavery. I'm not doing it. I don't care how much the KKK improved. I'm not going to go join the KKK. The Democrat Party started the KKK. But at the same time, I'm going to spend my life and all the effort I have to make sure the Republican Party gets back on track and get back to the time when it was Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. When it was the defender of the Constitution, and it made the plight of the poor and the working poor a legislative priority, not in terms of keeping folks locked to a system of entitlements, but to elevate the poor to become entrepreneurs and employees. Once the poor is elevated, everybody else is elevated.
Come on, come on, brother.
Douglas wrote about this, so thank God we have Douglas. Thank God Douglas was a self-proclaimed Republican. Thank God that in my view, Frederick Douglass was the quintessential constitutional conservative. And thank God that Douglas wrote a lot of things down. So, I just want to come by and share that with you. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. It is my honor to have the opportunity to present the at-large conference Frederick Douglass Award. And before he comes up, let me read something from the bio of Mr. Louisiana? Oh boy, work with it now. All right. And he became active now in the civil rights movement in the 50s, and he joined the U.S. Navy. Thank you for your service to your country.
Here, here.
And that was during the Vietnam War time. He finished college while in the Navy. That's a tough thing to do, finish schooling while on active duty. And he was accepted into several of the nation's top law schools. And he decided to go to Rutgers University, where he graduated, and also he taught law there for a while. He worked for the state governments of New Jersey and Pennsylvania at the age of 29. He ran his first state agency in Maryland, and he was chosen to run a cabinet-level agency in the states of Illinois, Seattle, and the state of Washington. In his youth, he was one of the worst baseball players in the state of Louisiana. But he credits that to later success in careers such as football, ballet. You're a good athlete. I can't do that. Modern dance, kickboxing, snow skiing, mountain climbing, fencing, biking, and swimming. He's a well-rounded, gifted athlete, sounds like to me. Senator Guillory spent 43 years of his criminal defense as a criminal defense attorney, and served in the Louisiana House of Representatives and the Louisiana Senate. He was a legislator of the year in his first 6 years, and he was elected to the Louisiana Justice Hall of Fame for his work in law and government. He received numerous awards. I'm not going to go through all of them. I just want to highlight a few. 2012 was the Blueprint Top 10. The Southwest Chamber Legislator of the Year, also in 2012. And for his state, the Senate responsibilities, he's on the Education Committee, Health and Welfare Committee, Judiciary Committee, Selected Committee of Veterans Affairs. He's the chairman of the Senate Committee for Retirement, Public Retirement System for Actuarial Committee. Excuse me for a second. He's also chairs the Reentry Advisory Council, and also the Special Committee on Public Safety and Corrections. I want you to join me in not just welcoming the senator to the stage, but also congratulate him for being the recipient of that large conference for the Douglass. Before I take my seat, I want to add to that, in that I have a small token, because this award exemplifies someone that stands by, believes in those four life empowering values of Frederick Douglass: respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life, the belief in limited government, and the belief in personal responsibility. So I want to give to you a Frederick Douglass Republican t-shirt, and again it says on the front, big bold letters, FDR is not who you think, Frederick Douglass Republican. And let you know, I know it's not a problem for you, but when I give it to folks sometimes, I gotta let them know that this is not a sleeping shirt. Right. You have to wear it, and I know you will wear it.
I'll wear it.
Thank you so much.
I'm humbled and thankful that you even noticed the politics of a senator from the bayous of Louisiana. That in itself is an honor. And that this is done in the name of Frederick Douglass, one of America's greatest leaders, makes this honor even more great. But it's not only an honor, it's an obligation, motivation that I should work harder for our state and for our nation. We have a responsibility to not accept the deliberate misinformation that's thrown at us. We must educate our people and show them that there is an alternative to the direction that the nation is being led in today. Today, the party of disappointment has moved away from the majority of Louisianans and away from the traditional values of America. They've left us behind on crucial issues like abortion, vouchers, Second Amendment rights, union control of public jobs, school prayer, family values. Just the other day, the head of the state organization for the party of disappointment said that the only reason that anyone would not agree with the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare, the only reason that anyone would oppose it is because the president's father was from Kenya. That is an example of how far they have left not only American values, but reason. Yes. That is absurd.
Hear, hear.
With each passing day, I become more and more disappointed in that party. And the list of disappointments grows longer. No matter where you stand on immigration, for example, you deserve to know what's coming. What would be the impact of millions of people on our already fragile social security system? Or our schools, our hospitals, our jobs? These questions must be answered. If we don't know where our government stands, if we don't know what our government's policies on immigration are, that is another great disappointment. One of the biggest disappointments has been that party's role in the breakdown of our families. Their support of dependency over self-reliance, of everything but traditional marriage, of abortion on demand. Their policies have encouraged the high teen birth rate, high school dropout rates, high incarceration rates, and very high unemployment rates. Children are encouraged to get something they call a crazy check, rather than being encouraged to go to school, hunker down, and get an education.
Hear, hear.
Our initiative and self-reliance are sacrificed in exchange for votes for the party of disappointment. And that list of disappointments is long. Minority unemployment is in the stratosphere. The lies and cover-ups of Benghazi, IRS harassing the Tea Party, wiretapping and spying on reporters, scaredy pants crisis management. Now that's a new one. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. There was an oil spill, and the response was, oh goodness, Stop all drilling. If there is a shooting in Mooseville, Montana, of a moose, the response will be, oh goodness, confiscate all guns. That is scaredy pants crisis management.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
I want better for my country.
Yes.
And for my Louisiana. A bad deal in Washington, D.C., a disappointment in Washington, D.C. is a bad deal in Louisiana. It's bad for Lafayette and Lafayette and New Orleans. It hurts Shreveport and Monroe, Natchitoches, St. Laurent. We must help America find her path home. We must work through and past these disappointments that we're talking about toward a brighter day. That brighter day, that alternative to what we have, is what the people in this room seek. We can lead our community to not putting all our eggs in one basket, to not being taken advantage of and neglected because we're in the hip pocket of the party of disappointment. Now, we all know what we've received from that party, but let's look at what we've received under the Republican Party. We've received some pretty good deals under Republicans. During the Civil War and after the Civil War, they fought for civil rights, and that's the real deal.
That's right.
Republicans helped President Lyndon Johnson pass the momentous 1965 Civil Rights Act over the objection of most Southern Democrats. Let me repeat it. Over the objection of most Southern Democrats. Republican Richard Nixon opened the doors to higher learning and the doors to government contracting for minorities like no other president has, including the one living in the White House today.
That's right.
And Nixon is the one who, locked in an expensive and unpopular war, simply declared victory and left Vietnam. He invested that money in America. Small businesses, workers flourished. Those were the alternatives that we needed at those times, and today the Republican Party has led the path to reform rotten education, which harms our community worst of all.
That's right.
They lead the fight today against irresponsible government overspending. That too hurts us more than any other community. So, I have fully paid my dues.
Well,
I pledge to use whatever skills I have to help find the alternative that we need today. I pledge to continue working with my Democrat colleagues in the Senate and the House of Representatives. And I look forward to creating new partnerships for the good of Louisiana. Is it a surprise, or is it the worst kept secret in Louisiana? I am, as of this day, joining Frederick Douglass as a Republican.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We want to recognize some very special people that are here. Then I want to make some comments on behalf of all of us. My name is Senator Gerald Long. I serve with Elbert and so many others that value what you value. Smaller government, more responsibility, taking a stance on the tough issues that we all believe are important to us. That's why Elbert Guillory is a leader in our Senate. I want to share with you some others who are here from our House. I want us to recognize Representative Barry Ivy. A round of applause. He's brand new. We want to recognize several senators who are with us. Senator A.G. Crow, Senator Mike Walsworth, and Senator Barrett Peacock. In addition to that, his lovely daughter, we want to recognize Emmanuel Guillory. Give them all a round of applause. Now, before we dismiss, let me take just a moment to tell you There is a fresh new wind blowing in Louisiana. There's an opportunity we've never had before.
Say so.
And I want to tell you today, I not only stand here as a Republican, I stand here as a citizen of this great state who embraces the promise of one who came 2,000 years ago to give us liberty, to give us hope, and to give us a reason for living. Now there are many people here today, and we all express our faith and our opinions in a different way. But when I tell you there's a fresh new wind blowing, there's a Louisiana that we're going to make and that we're going to leave for our children and our grandchildren that will make us all proud. I stand here today not only as a father of 3, but as a grandfather of 9 grandsons. And my goal is to change the face of Louisiana. And I'll tell you this, with men like Albert Guillory, with the platform of speakers that we've heard today, and by the way, tell my good friend in Alabama, Governor Robert Bentley, how much we appreciate what he does in the great state of Alabama.
Hear, hear.
But there is a fresh new wind blowing, and I challenge you, get on board. The best days of Louisiana are not behind us, they're in front of us. And if we'll take the mantle, if we'll take the responsibility, if we'll step up to the plate and lead with integrity and character and leadership, you will see Louisiana becoming a great state and a great place to call home. God bless you. Thank you for coming today.
One more time. Lift that hand up again, Albert.
Thank each of you again for being here. And let's hear it one more time for Albert Guillory.
Albert, I got a little special pin for you. LAGOP pin. We're glad to have you aboard. Glad to have you as one of our brand new Republicans. Look forward to working with you. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Say that, Roger. Roger. Let's take that shot again. Very good.
I just wanted to thank everyone for attending this conference. It's truly a historical moment, and the Republican Party in the state of Louisiana really appreciate you being. Albert, why don't you stay up here 1 second with me? I'd just like to thank you and recognize you for all your leadership and what you've done. Let me just begin by saying that, Albert, we welcome you. We look forward to working with you. It's great for the Republican Party of Louisiana, but it's great for the state of Louisiana, and it's just, you've been a friend, and we're glad to have you as part of the Republican Party. We thank you so much. Your dedication to public service and the people of this great state, I think it's just so important. But before we celebrate that, I wanted to just take a couple of minutes and just tell you a little bit about this grand old party that you're joining. Being a Republican isn't really hard. The decisions we make are justified by common sense and values that really all of us hold. For example, we believe that life begins at conception. We believe in traditional marriage and strong family values. We believe in justice and the rule of law. We believe in need is great for safe neighborhoods. We believe that our families should deserve to live in safe communities. We believe strongly in the right of self-defense and the defense of our own families. This comes with a strong protection of the right to bear arms. It's absurd to believe that punishing law-abiding citizens would do anything to reduce violent crime. It really defies common sense. The Republican Party believes every child deserves a quality education, no matter what zip code you live in. Parents, not government bureaucrats, know what schools are best for their child. And really, no child deserves to be stuck in a failing school at any time, and no child deserves to be left behind. It's an easy way to remember what our platform stands for is that we believe less is more, and government that governs best governs least. I think that we can all agree that the government that we have today is just too big, it's too complicated. Our tax structure is unfair, unstable, and really has become a nightmare. While we're at it, you have to think about some of the things the government is running. The IRS, we've seen what they're doing lately, EPA, FEMA, and many other federal agencies. They're inefficient, ineffective, and they waste our taxpayer dollars. Just this last week, I'm sure that you've seen yourself just how out of touch the Louisiana Democratic Party is with the hard-working Louisianians. Senator Peterson's comments serve only to advance her own political agenda and really were not in the best interest of the Louisiana residents. The bottom line is that it's never appropriate to demonize or even infer that someone is a racist just for disagreeing with our leadership or disagreeing with the president or disagreeing with one individual. Trust me, we have plenty of reasons to oppose the health care that we call Obamacare, but race is not one of those reasons. Senator Peterson should apologize for her absurd remarks. Being in a leadership position, it's really inexcusable for her to have said that. And really, I think Senator Peterson needs to resign as chairwoman of the Louisiana Democratic Party, because I think that is a ridiculous statement to make. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that the Democrats have fallen short on a lot of their health care promises. First, they said the premiums wouldn't go up, they would go down. But no, they've gone up. Everyone tells me their premiums are skyrocketing. They said taxes really would increase, but yes, they have gone up tremendously, by tens of millions of dollars with this health care debacle. They said that we would save money in the long term, but instead now they said they made a mistake and the money is going to be much more than they ever anticipated. Obamacare will increase the number of people dependent on the government for health care instead of driving down the cost. Since when has government become the solution to all our problems? Well, in closing, one time I was asked by a gentleman if a conservative principles actually helped all the people or just those rich people. I told that gentleman that being a small business owner myself, I know firsthand how conservative, and I'd say Frederick Douglass conservative ideas, help Main Street Americans to succeed. Out on the floors, and during these times of high taxes and burdensome regulations, I often wonder if I'll be able to keep my doors open, if my children are going to be able to continue the business. I wonder why I send more in taxes than I give to my employees. In Louisiana, we've been under conservative leadership since 2007. Recently, we have taken over all three branches of the state government, the executive branch, judicial branch, and the legislative branch. I'm proud to say, I believe our state is moving in the right direction, and we're glad to have you come in with us. Louisiana has had a positive job growth during this recession that left so much of the rest of our country in so many troubles, and so many millions of people unemployed throughout America. We've made some hard decisions. We've had to cut and streamline our government because future generations depended on that. Every child deserves a chance to dream. It's our responsibility to empower our children with the tools to get a quality education, to seek higher education or vocational training, and then to discover and strive for their American dream. This isn't possible if all they have to look forward to is government dependency, unemployment, and high taxes. That's not good enough for the people of Louisiana. So I introduce to you today the future of our party, the future of the great party in Louisiana and nationally, the future Republican Party. We must live by our timeless principles, and in doing so, we must become the party of growth and a party of opportunity. In the coming years, we will be campaigning and supporting candidates like Senator Guillory in districts all across this state, districts where many of us have never ever campaigned before. We will knock on doors, register voters, build relationships in these communities, and yes, we'll ask for their vote and their support with the help of Senator Guillory. It's time we shout our message from the rooftops. Everyone deserves to hear the truth, and I think we heard a lot of truth at this conference. It's a great conference, and we appreciate everyone being here today. I look forward to all of you. I look forward to working with you, Albert, to win races in the future, to continue to push our state forward. And I'd like everyone to just join with me again. Let's congratulate Albert Guillory.
Tim, come on.